wanted the best, you got him 4 abreast. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws.
This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
While many tried, in the end, it was Abner Acosta who brought down Karl Modoff from the top spot. Even still, considering Karl has now finished in either first or second for 4 seasons straight, you cannot help but admire his impressive speed and ability. But now it is Acosta's turn to defend the crown. Today starts off a new season here at the legendary WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. We'll see if the momentum continues or if Acosta falters as we get ready to watch round 1 of the PRL GTE Sportscar series. And you'll see it all live on the global SimRacing channel and the iRacing eSports network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Samuel Ryman. Behind the scenes is our director Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Sam, with IndyCar coming back, this is no longer just the domain of sports car racing, but GT cars are still very much at home here.
Yeah, Laguna Seca is always open to a variety of different forms of motorsports. MotoGP has raced here as well. They have a lot of historic cars race here. I had an old colleague once who got to work at the MotoGP race here. They went around the track on the golf cart and almost flipped it down the corkscrew. If you have played a motor racing video game, including iRacing in the past, you are probably fairly familiar with this track. A lot of elevation changes, a lot of tricky corners, passing opportunities as well. And of course, many of those tricky corners we mentioned are quite famous, none more so than the corkscrew. But just in case you do not know what a lap around Laguna Seca is like, let's give you a driver's eye view with our GSRC lap guide.
Alright, we're in the GSRC 4 GT, so let's do a lap around Laguna Seca. Up and over turn 1, you'll let it drift to the right in order to set up for the Andretti hairpin. The way you've got to get the car settled quickly and the fact that it's downhill makes it easy to botch the braking into here. The good news is you ideally want a late apex anyways to get the run off of it. After that, you've got a similar problem with some tricky braking into turn 3. This corner tightens up on exit and likes to lull drivers into understeering wide. 4 only needs a little lift but can be dangerous with a tall curb to the far inside. Finally, you get a short breather on the way down to 5. This turn is both uphill and considerably banked, meaning you can carry more speed into it than you'd expect. You'll need that speed since it's a very steep climb on the way up towards 6. Now, this left-hand kink is one of the scariest in all of racing with the way the track dips at the apex. Hit it wrong and the speed at which you'll spin off towards the walls can often be race-ending. Up at the top of this hill is the infamous corkscrew. The braking is blind over a kink, and while you mercifully can see the first apex, the second one is way out of sight by the time you turn in for it. Dropping down a huge amount of elevation, your plunge continues through rainy curve. Definitely late apex this incredibly long corner. Switch sides, and then you've got the swift turn 10, which is another one with lots of banking. At last is the final hairpin, which offers a good chance for an overtake if you're close. But really, you don't want to sacrifice your corner exit with this taking you back down to the Andretti hairpin. However, hopefully, you've now finished a lap around Laguna Seca. See a lap around Laguna Seca from on board the Ford GT. But as always, today's race is brought to you by SimMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring organizations, companies, manufacturers, teams, and drivers together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. They're also bridging virtual and real motorsports by providing a network between these two, involving sim racers, real drivers, teams, managers, engineers, and of course, motorsport fans alike. You can find out more about how you can get involved at SIMMSA.net. Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products create an incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. The winner of Division 1 here in the PRL GTE Sportscar Series will get a ButtKicker game or 2 or a simulation kit. Also, both drivers of the winning team in the team's championship will get a free t-shirt. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. Now, speaking of championship prizes, well, why don't we go over last season's championship, starting with the drivers, of course. Up at the top of that, I mentioned it, it was Abner Acosta who came away with the most points at the end of the season. Modolf managed to get back into second place at the final round ahead of Christian Eisler, who jumps up with him as well. And it's Michael Diaz. Poor Michael, unfortunately, finished things off bad, but it's looking like he'll start things well. We'll get to that in a second because qualifying looking good for him. Zach Hefner did not change positions and rounded out things in fifth place. We said T-shirts went to the team's winner. Sam, who got the T-shirts in last season?
Well, it was Obsidian Racing with 504 points, far ahead of Team Bush Think Copper. And there you see things got quite close after that. Just 10 points between second and third in the standings. So, and the other thing I love about this, Joe, we saw this on the driver's graphic, and also we're seeing it here on the team standings at the end of last season as well. The variety of different cars that we see represented at the top of the standings in both drivers and teams is certainly competitive out here in this league.
That it is. Now, today's race is going to be similar to last season. Let's look at the race details for today. As we mentioned, we're in round 1. I know it says 10 out of 10. We are in the first round of the season. We have 4 different cars that you can use: the Porsche, the Ferrari, the Ford, or the BMW. And they will have one scheduled pit stop for fuel because they've limited the fuel compared to what the cars run in real life in this 60-minute race. They also have an incident cap that they need to worry about, 20 incidents, and they will be DQ'd. Has been brought down from last season, which was at 24 in the past. Now, they do have bonus points in this fast lap, pole, or if they get 3 incidents or less, and that could certainly come into play today. Now, they have no spare car in this series, so if you damage it, well, you got to deal with it until the checkered flag or come in for repairs. So certainly got to keep it safe, especially around a tricky circuit such as this. Once again, this season you are watching this series on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure and subscribe here on their YouTube channel. All you got to do is go to either their main page on their YouTube channel, or if you just go below this video, you'll see a big red button that says subscribed, and or says subscribe, and then you will be subscribed. If you click it, it'll no longer be red. You won't miss a moment after that here on the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. So we currently have qualifying underway, and I mentioned Diaz looking really good, Sam. He's our provisional pole sitter, and it is not a small gap right now.
Yeah, 0.3 of a second, which some people might sound like a small gap. However, it's a short track, so you would expect the times to be a bit closer than that. And also, we have 37 cars here, and not a single one of those cars has been able to get within 0.3 of Diaz. Now, Diaz's time is over half a second slower than anything we saw in practice, but it's about coming up 11 a.m. virtual racing time, as I like to call it, here at Laguna Seca. So practice was taking place in the early morning. The track was a lot cooler. The times were faster. And already the drivers starting to struggle a little bit with grip, because this track can get hot around here, Drew. And we'll give you a better idea of what the weather is, I think, closer to race time.
Yeah, it's the California sun certainly beating down as it gets higher in the sky, and it continues to warm up. That qualifying could be important here today. You mentioned the short lap time, and there's a lot of corners around this short lap. So do they have good places to try and overtake? In the past, we've seen, especially faster cars, seem to have kind of a tough time getting by one another if they're close on pace.
Yeah, it is kind of a bit of both, Joe. There's passing opportunities at this track, but they're not easy. Perhaps the easiest one is going into turn 1 if you get a good run out of a final corner. After that, turn 5 is a good passing zone. The corkscrew is a good passing zone. Turn 11, the final turn, although if you do that, someone can just try and set you back up to try and get you into turn 1 again. So we will see passes today. But I think we're going to see a lot more changes in position from other drivers' mistakes, because as well known as this course is, all of these drivers, I'm sure, have had plenty of laps around here. This is one of the 3 tracks when you first get iRacing. It's still difficult to get a perfect lap.
Ooh, when Abner Acosta joins his teammate Diaz, our current champion is on the front row in second place, still 2/10 behind Diaz. So Michael looking like he has great speed. For a while, we were watching the qualifying of Andrew Caron, our winner from the final round, and multiple races run where he had good results on hand, but didn't quite get it. He finally got it in at Suzuka. Number 18 is expected to be competitive all season long, though his qualifying has him on the 3rd row. As we watch Valenzuela come across, he's just behind him in 7th. Let's see if this is an improvement. Nope. Looks like that time not going to count, as he had an off somewhere. There's a lot of drivers here today. You talked about 37 out there currently. I do see that Eric Luke is not in the session right now, so we might actually have 36 that start this race. And we should point out that this is actually the pro split of the two. They have 2 splits. This is Division 1. That they are racing in here, and they have Division 2, obviously, that also races with the drivers who have been rated lower than these. Still fiercely competitive, but that just gives you an idea, Sam, of the talent level out here today as they're just wrapping up qualifying.
Yeah, and PRL have done a great job of being able to get that talent. They're a huge sanctioning body. They have, this isn't the only series they run, and it shows they know how to run a league well, and the drivers have came here. Obviously, it's the first race of the season. Normally, the first race of the season, you do get large fields because everyone's optimistic they're going to get a good result, and we'll see. I'm sure there'll be 1 or 2 drivers who might not be too happy with their result at the end of the sin. Someone's got to finish last. The one thing I remember from the Stuart Little movie. But right now, the checkered flag is about to fly in qualifying, and Michael Diaz has started another lap, so we'll see if anyone can dethrone him, and if they can Diaz improve on his time?
Looking to see who the first to complete their qualifying is going to be. It looks like Jonathan Almanar, who's in 25th. We see him there, the Virginia's driver, coming around the penultimate corner, now into the final hairpin. His fastest time, 1:19.7, just about 2 seconds off of our pole sitter. So very tightly packed field. He comes to the line. Did this one count? It did, but it is not faster. He's about a 10th off.
Of course, if you so much as put a wheel off on iRacing during a qualifying attempt, your lap time won't count. So we see more cars wrapping up their finishes right now, but still only Diaz and Acosta who have broken into 1:17.
Eric Gibson is going to be coming around. Kenny Rodriguez takes it into the pit, so he's not happy with that final lap. Gibson currently 35th and last driver with a time. That one not going to be good enough to improve. Looking at Thurman, who comes across and does improve. So that puts him up to 17th. What about our pole sitter? He crosses and does not go any faster. Weirdly, only 3 of his lap times and qualifying out of 13 attempts counted.
Seeing how much he can get away with the track. All right, I think that's going to wrap up qualifying, Joe. So let's take a look at our grid.
Absolutely. It is going to be Michael Diaz, as we said, on our pole here today for round 1. Abner Acosta, his championship teammate, is going to be starting right next to him. Is Michael going to be able to put one over on him? Pablo Valenzuela Uribe will be starting P3 with Christian Eisler in 4th. David Holland will be P5. Outside of him is Andrew Caron starting in 6th. Carlo Suarez Valenzuela starts in 7th, and Ignacio Rodriguez Fredes will be P8. Leif Peterson, who did not have a good race in Suzuka at the finale last season, he'll start 9th. John Ambrose joins us and will be starting P10.
Behind him will be Fernando Borda in 11th position, and then the devil car, let's call him the Bat Out of Hell, Horacio Cal Quinn in the 666 car, starting 12th. Behind him is Sean Romig, and starting from 14th place, had to be on my page, is Diego Ignacio Portel Garrido, who will from now on be called Diego by myself. Ted Lowendick will be starting from 15th ahead of Federico Montini in 16th place. Row number 9 is Brett Thurman and Jeff Carollo, and then Lyndon Swabby and Sean Duhamel will be starting on row number 10.
Jose Malbrun starts 21st. He'll be flanked by James Hebb. Then you've got Stacy Dunegan in 23rd. Jared Deploy starts 24th, and Jonathan Almanar in 25th. Kenny Rodriguez, who we saw abandon his final lap, will be 26th at the drop of the green. James LeBlanc starts 27th. P28 goes to Joey Trungale, and Steve Bamber will be in 29th. Row 15 will be completed by Mark File, who starts in 30th. Sam?
Then the drivers at the tail end of the field will be Donald Olson as well as Spencer Semkowicz. Danny Duchesne and Trey F. Karintry are on row number 17. The last driver to turn the lap was Erin Gibson, quite a ways off the pace, not actually a competitive lap time, so we'll see what he can do in the race, starting 35th. The 2 drivers behind there, Gary Schilling and Eric Luke, did not turn the lap in qualifying. We'll see if they're able to make the grid.
I do not see either of them in the sim right now, so I think they will not be making this race, it appears, as the pace car starts to peel away. We're getting ready to go racing for 60 minutes here in round 1 of the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. I am very curious to see how things shake out with our front row, because Diaz did manage to sneak wins in last season, I believe. Let me double check on the stats as we take a look at that weather you were talking about, Sam. It's heated up just a couple degrees since the qualifying, 98 degrees Fahrenheit. Is that going to be pretty slick?
Not for Laguna Seca. The sim thinks it's May still. That I'm seeing that this race has taken place on May 15th, 2019 in the iRacing world. So, you know, it's not exactly summertime, and the track's a little bit cooler. These drivers just had an almost a 3-hour-long practice session before this race started. So hopefully they've ironed out all the kinks, and we can just worry about racing each other, and they should be able to control their cars on track. Got one car starting from the pits here.
Ooh, that's not good. Let's see, who is that actually? Oh, and that is John Ambrose starting from the pit. Not sure why. So we'll find out soon enough what's going on there. A bit of an update. I checked the stats. Diaz did not actually win last season. However, he did have 6 top 5s. He took a pole and a fastest lap over the course of the season. 6 out of 10 is not bad in terms of stats for those top 5s. I'm sure he'll be hungry to try to get that first victory, though.
One final note, Evan Gibson will be a DNS. I'm assuming that's because his qualifying time wasn't fast enough.
All right, so let's see how they start off the line here. New season, a lot of new drivers. Porsche pace car peels into the pits. Diaz has control of the fields. He's going to take them around the hairpin. How long does he wait for that green flag? Not long at all. He's immediately away like a shot, and he drops his teammate before they even get to the start-finish line. Acosta falls in behind. Uribe and Eisler also single file. Then you got a battle for David Holland. Around the outside, Andrew Caron looking to go the long way around to the hairpin. Not be able to retain that. Waiting to see if everybody manages to get through that first hairpin. I see Montini going off course. Otherwise, I think we've got a clean start.
Yeah, I don't know about that battle for 5th, though. Holland and Caron were very close entering the apex of the first corner, and they were still side by side a little bit after that. Right now, Holland is winning out that battle in 5th place ahead of Caron, but it's still early days. Of course, all the tyres still getting up to temperature as they go up the hill to the corkscrew. These leaders know it's the first round of 10, and there's a spin out in the middle of the field. It's Diego. Diego in the number 17 car's gone for a spin, comes back on the track in front of traffic. And that was almost a bit dramatic back there. So things clean up front, but a bit of a scare in the middle of the field.
Yeah, that was Duhamel who just narrowly avoided him. Didn't even lose a place, I think. Nearly taking into the sand to get around him. Sean stays in P17, but it is Diaz who leads across the line after our first lap of the season, being closely followed by Acosta, the current champion, looking to try and take a win on his first time as champion. They're starting to drop Uribe behind them, the gap up to nearly half a second. Deep into the first corner for Acosta, though. Loses a little bit of time on his teammate. Eisler has since been shaking Holland and has been applying a pressure to Uribe.
So there's 2 grey and black Ferraris leading the field around right now. We drop back a bit further in the field.
Riding from on board, looks like the 4th place car of Eisler. Oh, looks like we're actually on Holland. 5th place car just up ahead. A little bit of dirt being kicked up by a couple cars. Oh, and slow off the corner. That's Caron and Valenzuela a little bit on the attack there, Sam.
Yeah, Caron went wide on turn 6. It's one of the trickiest turns on this track, especially in this sim, is that left-hander before the run up the hill to the corkscrew. Caron overshot that and almost got past it. And there's contact going in the corkscrew right now. Dravid Duploy and Diego just rubbed fenders going through there. So Diego, who spun around on the opening lap out of turn 6 and almost caused a bit of drama, he is aggressively working his way back up through the field. Watch this track.
Not waiting for anybody. He sends one up the inside. And Deploy had to give way, essentially. I think they both managed to get away with it without any bad damage. However, Kenny Rodriguez did not have the same luck out of the final corner. He's found the wall. See exactly how this happened, Sam.
Early on in the race, tires are cold, and as you're trying to... Oh, okay, it wasn't wheel spin. He might have got a bit of help.
And he managed to avoid the wall, so I was wrong there. Just stopped before it. Is that actually... Is that Diego behind him? No, it didn't look like he got touched.
Oh, no, yep, that was wheel spin. But that was Diego behind him, so yes, that was another position for Diego. And I'm watching Diego again right now, because he's right behind Sean Duhamel, entering the corkscrew, and this time he's going to try the outside.
Whatever way works, and he gets it done, even before turning in this time. I tell you what, this guy is on fire right now, considering he only qualified in 14th. I'm impressed with how well he's been dealing with the midfield as we watch on the replay. Usually I would think it would take much longer if he only lost, maybe 5 positions there like he did to work his way forward. But he is just chopping through them.
He started 14th. He's now rebounded back to 18th. And, well, is he going to get 17th here from Jose Malban? We'll find out in a moment. Well, no, we're going to keep on this, but I'll tell you there's also a battle for 3rd place, or there was. Actually, it's broken up a little bit now.
Yeah, it looks like they spread apart and coming up the outside, maybe? Nope, back to the racing line from Malbron. Garrido doesn't need to wait for the inside a second time. He slides through, and that now gives him 17th. Now we go up to 3rd place, about a half a second between Uribe and Eisler, who has been applying a little bit of pressure for much of the race, although Eisler using every inch of track and then some, tipping wheels into the dirt out of the penultimate turn.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to Eisler, but he misses the apex there on the final corner, and that allows Holland to close in on him a little bit more. Maybe he did a bit of aggressive lap, heated his tyres up, and is paying the price for it right now because he's losing time to 3rd, and the 5th place is gaining time on him.
Still, I get the sense that Christian is responding to a lot of our criticisms from seasons recent. He is a multi-time winner, but hasn't won in a while and has been stuck in the mid-pack, but right now running in 4th place after qualifying there. Looks like he clearly has been practicing in the off-season. He's got it together now, even though he's dropped off of Uribe by about half a second. And he's certainly not under threat from Holland, at least for the time being, as they climb up the hill, over the crest, and into the corkscrew. Now, the field is looking like they're generally falling back from our top 2, Diaz and Acosta, Obsidian Racing teammates who won the team championship as well last season, are coming back and looking like they are the ones to beat.
Yeah, and we saw that team championship graphic at the start of a broadcast. They won it by quite a substantial amount. And right now, with their cars leading 1-2, as you mentioned, it looks like they're on track to repeat that again. Of course, this is the first of a 10-round season. We're going to a variety of different racetracks, so we'll see if they can keep it up. No reason to expect they couldn't, but that's why we run the races. You never know what's going to happen. We still have pit stops coming up later in the race. And with the lack of passing we've seen from everyone except for Diego, who knows if someone will try and play the strategy card to make a pass.
Diego just had a big problem himself, and I think that was contact under braking between himself and James Hebb. Let's look at this one more time. He braked from a long ways back. I don't know if he was going to make that corner, though. We come back live. He's getting the position right now. Don't really need a replay, just got him into turn 5, easy up the inside, and that now promotes him to 16th. Oh, did something happen to Fredes? Number 96 just suddenly disappeared. Huh. He just disappears down through the corkscrew. And I think he's back now, so it looks like, yes, indeed, it was. Oh, we got a car upside down in the corkscrew. If we want to stay on this replay, that was Jared Duploy. Ooh, what a bad day he is having. This one, not his fault either. Looks like Joey Trungale gets into him. Looking from the gearbox of the Georgia driver. Go ahead and swing it through turn 6 here, and then up at the top of the hill. That's Trungale in that blue and orange Porsche. Outbrakes himself, and with the drop in elevation, nowhere to go for deploy. And actually, you know what? I take that back. From watching that replay and looking at it on my screen, Trungale did not run into him initially. It was after deploy was already spinning. So as we ride on board with Karen in 6th position, Top 6 starting to pull a gap on the rest of the field. It is now 3.5 seconds back to 7th place Valenzuela.
Top 9 are all in the positions that they started. That's how clean it's been up front. To find the first driver who's made the move, you've got to go back to 10th place, where Horacio Calquin in the 666 car has moved up 2 positions from 12th to 10th. And he's got a bit of pressure from behind him with Sean Romig in 11th place and Ted Lowendick in 12th.
Speaking of making progress, remember John Ambrose started from pit lane despite qualifying in 10th. He's up to 24th. He's made up quite a few spots here. Not surprising with his speed. Might catch up with Garrido at some point, depending on how things go. And I see a car losing 2 positions. Don't need a replay of this, but Horatio Calquin, who is now in 12th, a little bit of a slide coming through turn 3. And that allowed Lowendick and Sean by.
Yes, that was a bit of a commentator's curse from me, because he was in 10th place and said he had a bit of pressure from behind, succumbed to that pressure and lost a couple positions. Good news, he's still in the race. I won't say anything more before I drink some again.
Behind him, a familiar face in this series, Federico Montini, currently running 13th. He started 16th as we ride on board with him chasing down Calquin. He's also got Brett Thurman and Fernando Borda following behind him. We see a mistake like we saw for Horatio out of Federico. He could easily lose 2 spots as well. In fact, doesn't have the best exit, Sam, out of the final corner. Brett is looking a little close. And did something happen to David Holland?
Yeah, he's lost a position to Andrew Karen. So Holland has had a mistake during this lap. Holland was in 5th. Karen now has that position, so we'll get a replay here of what exactly happened.
So we're still live here. We'll, yeah, this happened at a turn 1. That looks like we don't have the replay on that. Yeah, that was the first change. Oh, here we go. Yeah, that's the first change in the top 5, as you mentioned, all race long thus far. Oh, and we've had a big problem for Federico Montini just now. This happened in turn 6. I think he caught the wall on the exit here, Sam.
Oh yeah, turn 6, one of the trickier turns, and he was lucky actually. Maybe he wasn't lucky. He's trying to judge his speed when he hit the wall there. It looks like he was able to scrub a lot of it off, but yeah, he still had a pretty good
We had a big pileup, if we want to stay on this replay, with John Ambrose in the same spot. It started with him in turn 6. He got sideways. Carini got into him. Looks like Swaby was involved in it, as well as Jeff Corallo. Wow, this is bad.
Yeah, about 4 or 5 cars involved in that one.
Yeah, we don't usually talk about the big one on road courses. But, nobody got out of that without some sort of contact. And I do believe that Ambrose was damaged enough that he had to come. No, he stayed out. He's still staying out, but he looks not in the best of condition.
And definitely got some damage onto that Ferrari. The good news, if there is any good news from that, is I should imagine the pit window will be opening in 5 laps or so, Joe.
Something like that, I would imagine. Usually they can go about 40 minutes in these cars. Meanwhile, pass on screen between SRT cars. In fact, the battle's still going on as they come onto the front stretch. That's Thurman and Borda. Borda in the Ford to the inside, the BMW of Brett Thurman. Up on the high side, they come down into the Andretti hairpin. Thurman look a little bit better on the brakes as they get woed up. That's Garrido behind them, still on his charge forward. And as he looks to the inside of this battle, he almost loses as he dips a wheel into the grass.
You say these two are teammates, Drew? Because with the amount of passing Diego has been doing, I think they need to start working together, because or else Diego's going to get by them within a couple of laps here.
Well, sister teams, I believe. I'm pretty sure they're both on SRT. At least for sure, Thurman is on the SRT team as they head up towards turn 6. Diego falls back a little bit, gives them some breathing space now that they stop battling. But it still looks like Thurman's struggling through a couple corners.
Yeah, Diego can see. Oh, wow! That was different. Thurman locks up a rear brakes and it just goes right.
That happened so fast. Watch from above here. Just veers off like a shot. Yeah, I was as surprised as you were. It looked intentional almost at first, but car snapped on him and severe damage has set him back to 15th and bad enough that he's coming into the pits right now, as you can see.
Yeah, substantial damage. I'd say I've never seen a car spin to the right, entering the left-handed corner, but I did an autocross last weekend, Joe, and I did exactly that.
You can empathize. So we jump down into 15th position. That's Montini leading a train of cars. Heb, Malbron, and Duhamel all behind him. Most of the action has really been in the mid-pack and in the back of the pack of this race. Sam was talking about how little movement there is at the front of the field. Everybody just running their own.
I'm surprised at the amount of cars we've seen torn up in the middle half of a field. There really haven't been that many big movers out there.
Well, right now we got a potential... Whoa, no, it's more than a move. It is a shunt. That's Bammer and Swaby who got together coming through turn 4, and they're going to lose more positions as Carini and Rodriguez go by.
That was a nice recovery.
Swaby, though.
I mean, I'm sure that Porsche wasn't happy about that incident, but he did a good job driving out of it. Sorry, BMW.
No, well,
oh, it was a Porsche. Okay.
Yeah, Porsche and a Ferrari. Swaby in the Ferrari, the dark colored car. Bammer in the white, red, and blue machine. Red, white, and blue, I guess is the proper way to put it. Riding on board with Bammer, who still has a chance to try and get this one back, though. And he looks like he wants it back. Oh, but he outbrakes himself into the final turn and loses a ton of space. Now Carini is under attack from Lyndon Swaby as they come up the front stretch, lacking straight line speed. The 100 of Swaby easily going around the outside. That jumps him back up to 26th. Oh, and Holland up at the front. Holland, who was as high as 5th place, is now fallen down to 8th with a problem in the corkscrew.
Seen quite a bit of drama at the corkscrew today, and was this single car? We're just catching the end of it. Here we go. We'll find out. It looks like it's single car, Joe.
Outbrakes himself. Tries to avoid running into Karen. Thankfully, does not hit him, but sure goes bounding down the hill.
Well, like I say, it's the 11 a.m. in the sim, so the track is gradually heating up. I don't know if that means it's losing grip and it's taken a couple of drivers by surprise.
It's 4 degrees hotter now. It is definitely going up. Not the most drastic swing we've ever seen, but
we say that, Joe. iRacing updated their weather model last build, didn't they? Just a couple of weeks ago. Maybe something is behaving different with that regard.
Well, yeah, no, we've seen it's definitely stabilized since their new. Well, I guess it was the surface model technically that they altered with that, and it has slowed down the rate of increase by a fair amount. Even still, drivers are having to deal with some changing conditions as we watch Holland try to recover from his multiple mistakes now. Both times a little bit too far into the corners on the brakes as he hounds the car of Fredes. Ignacio Rodriguez, the number 96, very closely followed now by the number 20 as they come up the front stretch down to the inside. He's not going to fight. That almost looked like a lift a little bit. Holland now through.
A smart idea sometimes. If you tell the guy behind you's going to get the spot, just don't fight it. We're still early in the race, only 19 minutes into this thing. And for you fans new to the league, thinking, hey, I wish some of these drivers making all these mistakes and causing issues would be penalised, there is an incident cap. If these drivers run off track 20 times, they will disappear and not be in the race anymore.
Do we have a change for position in 16th? Yes, we did. It was Heb going a little bit hot in. This is very reminiscent of what we saw with Holland when he lost 5th place. Malbron is the one who benefits from his error. You see the replay. Nice catch on it, though. Kept it out of the dirt.
That's what counts. That won't count as an incident point. I tell you something that the leaders now have to deal with, Drew, that we haven't had so far today. Lap traffic.
Certainly could slow them up, and I'm sure Uribe's hoping for that because he's about 4 seconds back now as Diaz and Acosta continue to really school this field. Have been riding line astern in the same position, first and second respectively.
Yeah, I wonder if this will start benefiting Acosta if Diaz gets held up, because Acosta's been as close as half a second to his teammate within recent laps.
So we watch them up the hill from on board Acosta, seeing the distance to his teammate ahead. Looking very clean through some of these blind, narrow corners around this circuit. I wonder if we could jump down, though, to 9th position. Leif Peterson has Sean Romig very, very close. He's been within about 0.2 to 0.3 of a second for much of this lap. He's backed off slightly compared to how it started, but you can tell how close he is to Peterson anyways. Both of these cars Porsches, along with a Ferrari following behind them. That's Ted Lowendick.
Yeah, and let's give Ted a bit of a shout out. We'll see if there's a pass for 9th first. No, not yet. I'll give Ted a bit of a shout out. Said there's not many big movers through the field. He's gained a few spots, started 15th, come to 11th. Will he get 10th here? He's got a good run on Sean. Sean goes to the inside, and Ted is going to have to try and go around the long way, and that's not going to happen.
Backs out of it. Lets him keep that inside line. So from the attack to the defense for the number 33. Now trying to retain the top 10 instead of moving higher up it. I am starting to see, Sam, as well. There's a number of spots where the drivers have been pushing the boundaries of this track, and it looks like they're dragging a lot of dirt. So I have to imagine that offline, it's got to be slippery out there, isn't it?
Yeah, I would imagine so as well. But as we mentioned, they had a 2.5-hour practice session, and the same thing would have been happening there. So hopefully they learned their spots more prone to get dirt over them and how to deal with it.
It certainly is usually one of those down through the corkscrew. As we jump to 23rd position, this is Don Olson, very much under attack from John Ambrose. His limping car obviously not too injured as he's able to gain one.
Oh, Fernando Borda has a spin from 13th, but false alarm. Well, actually, I say that. Diego gets by him for that position. I was going to say false alarm because he got away with it without losing any positions, but then Diego came through at the last moment and made another pass.
Locked him up as it went sideways and stopped it before it hit anything. And there you see, that is Diego sneaking by.
I'm glad I established early on in the broadcast that I'm just going to call him Diego. Or else I would have ran out of vocal cords by now.
I need to give him a good nickname, though. So, 13th, he's now higher than he qualified, which was in P14.
Ooh, can we call him the Sabretooth? Name him... Oh, here we go, pit stops. Name him after Diego from my side. Who's this in the pits?
That's his Trungale that we see. He was one of the drivers that had some damage from the contact that he had with, it was Deploy that he ran into in the corkscrew.
Well, this is evidence that he obviously thinks pit window is open now, so let's see if more damaged cars come in here to get some repairs.
I haven't really seen any yet. I would have thought Ambrose would have been the first one. Oh, Diego with a problem in the corkscrew. He hands that position right back.
And we'll get a replay of that. I can tell you, Leif Peterson, who has been running quietly in 9th place, he has came in for his pit stop now. So,
Has as well.
get one more view of what happened to
And
Diego.
something happened to Bamber because he's now left the sim. Oh, and he didn't hit anything. Are we going to replay? We're going live. We're going live here.
Did
we
he
don't
run
need
off?
to replay this. Yeah, he came off the track and then just exited.
20 incident points, maybe?
No.
Okay, he came to a stop.
halt.
Okay.
Yeah. I think something in real life called his attention away, unfortunately. Leif Peterson finishes his pit stop. He's called away to the track to try and complete this race. He's now in 20th as he returns.
Gary Schilling has lost the connection.
Well, that is a disappointing way to end. We head over to Lowendick, who's still in a battle. It's the same one we were watching not too long ago. In 9th position now that we've had some stoppers and drivers with issues. Romig in 9th, Lowendick in 10th.
So is this, you must ask, where Lowendick decides to bite the bullet and come in? Maybe if he thinks he's getting held up by Romig, he stayed out this lap, or maybe he's comfortable behind Romig. Because I mean, anytime you make a pit stop, if you don't have the necessary tools to tell where you're going to come out on track, you run the risk of coming out in more traffic than you're in. And you know, Lowendick, I mean, he's got Romig in front of him, but other than that, things are pretty quiet around 10th place here.
Yeah, if he was closer in being held up, I'd be with you and say he probably needs to risk it and come in. But right now, it looks like he's not really got the pace to
You know who's close? Our leaders were really close through the corkscrew. The accordion effect means they spread back out as the track opens up here. But Diaz and Acosta are closer than I think we've seen them. And Diaz is getting held up behind Trungale. So could this, the lap car of Trungale, could this open up a pass for the lead? Maybe not, because Diaz gets a pretty decent run out of a corner. But I wonder if there are no team orders, if Acosta's starting to get a bit thirsty here.
Yeah, I don't believe they have any team orders whatsoever, although they have helped each other in the past when it was clear that Acosta was close to winning the championship. I know Diaz mentioned he'd be willing to try and support his teammate. Carini, now the one in front of them, starting to hold up Diaz. He's getting the worst of the traffic in some difficult places. He finally goes by on the right side. Is he going to let both drivers through? Not quite. He's forcing Acosta way wide, and all that time that he had gained is now lost.
That's the yin and yang of motor racing and working with lap traffic. Anytime you do benefit, you normally end up losing it behind someone else. That's not unusual at all.
Need to have you start riding cookies.
James Hebb has had another moment. He's overshot the first corner, and that costs him a position to Sean DeHamel.
Well, he did that not long ago, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see, we've got the replay. Is this the same thing all over again? Here's Hebb in the Porsche, the Club West driver down into turn 1. Almost a carbon copy, except this time he goes all the way off. And eventually has to work his way back onto the black stuff. So, now down to P17 and already under threat because that's Almanar and the 128 just behind him.
Hebb's car has not looked comfortable since it came back out on track. I haven't really been watching him much through the race, but it seems to be sliding around a little bit. Obviously, this race being just 1 hour long. Oh, and we got one car pointing the wrong way there.
Jose Malbrun. Between turns 10 and 11, he does not pit, curiously. Now, he seems to have had a connection problem as he was battling with, trying to figure out who that is. Oh, that is, that's Montini, the number 3. I can't say, Sam, that I blame Montini for this if he can't see where he is.
So we're not seeing the replay here, Joe, but you're saying that he didn't, that the other car disappeared, and so Montini went to his racing line and there was contact because he didn't know he was there.
That's what I'm assuming. I mean, he could only do so much.
Oh. My apologies, we did replay that and missed it. I was looking at the time and scoring between the leaders to see if they were out of lap traffic, and they are right now, about half a second still between Diaz and Acosta.
Down in 8th place, though, Fredez and Romig relatively close to one another. Lowendick has since dropped off of the back of Sean Romig. 33 having a little bit of breathing space now to try and focus forward and see if he can take this position.
Jonathan Almanar now into the pits, one of the drivers we've been watching in the battles around 15th place.
Still very few drivers who've come in thus far.
Yeah, well,
the hill.
I was about to say about a minute ago, Joe, 1 hour race, you shouldn't expect anyone to take tyres. It simply takes too long. So the only benefit they're coming into the pits is the only strategic benefit really is getting out of any traffic if you're in some.
They now finish up the lap. Fred is doing pretty well to hold Romig back. In fact, Sean looks like he's lost a tenth or two around that lap. So these three start to spread apart.
Diego has had a big spin, and I think he gets away without losing the position. This is in turn 9 and 10.
All right, just out of rainy curve. Let's see, dipping the wheels off maybe? Yes, indeed. Oof, and you are flying at that part of the track. You can see how far he goes, actually, trying to get the car stopped. Thank goodness nobody was around him. So stays in 13th place. Not the cleanest of drives for the number 17, but I mean, I guess going up one spot is still a positive overall. Speaking of positives, we talked about what a great race we've been seeing from Christian Eisler, the 727. Not only is he in 4th, but he's starting to put some pressure on Pablo Uribe, seeing if he could get up to the podium. They lap the car of Kenny Rodriguez. He's going to just stay to the side, let them through.
Yeah, never a battle like this catches lap traffic. The driver behind should see that as an opportunity. So, see if Eisler can capitalize on that.
Yeah, they don't have lap traffic for quite a while in front of them, so he's going to have to wait a little bit for another opportunity like that.
Now, I've got to ask us, Joe, you've covered the GT racing a little longer than me. Is there a difference in the pit times of getting fuel in the different manufacturers of cars?
We haven't noticed a drastic difference, but fuel saving has been a topic for a number of seasons, and some drivers have used it to great effect. I'm not really seeing much of it here, though. Uribe's way deep into the corkscrew and somehow collects it without losing too much. Eisler starting to spot a few openings in the armor. I think all it's going to take is a big enough mistake from Pablo, and it's looking like Eisler is going to be pouncing. Not missing anything up front. It's still Diaz and Acosta who are running line astern. These two are a much closer fight that we see on screen. Much of the field has spread out.
You're over the halfway point now, but all of these drivers, I'm sure, are thinking about their pit stop, even if they're going to run it long. It should come up within the next few minutes, and these battles for first and for third could very easily be resolved in the pits, even if they come in on the same lap.
That's a good point. They difference. Did something happen to Diego? Because I'm seeing him grayed out, and I don't know if that's connection problems.
He's very easily could have hit the 20 incident point limit from what we've seen today.
That's true, too. That spin will count as 2 incident points, I believe, on its own, which is a tenth of the way there. Closing in under braking, Christian Eisler, looking a lot more like the Iceman of old now. Seeing what he can do to get Pablo Uribe to crack. Saw a car in the pits. Oh, that's Jared Deploy coming back out in his Ferrari. So he's going to try to scalp a few positions just by getting some laps in, it looks like.
Yeah, we've had a fair amount of attrition. As you mentioned, Jared Duploy coming out in 35th, but ahead of him, we've got Mark Feil, Brent Thurman, Gary Schilling, Steve Bammer, Joey Trungale, all multiple laps down. And actually, I take that back then. We've still got 29 cars really competitive out of 35 starters, which was pretty good for a large field at a twisty track.
And on the first round, where everybody's not familiar with one another, jumping down to John
we got
Ambrose.
spinning corkscrew, and it's causing a bit of havoc. Lyndon Swaby has spun at the corkscrew, and he's trying to do a 7-point turn to get back going without backing into the direction of traffic. It got a little bit scary, but here's the number 100 car of Lyndon Swaby, and you see he's spun around in not a very pleasant spot.
I can't see where he's going. Yeah, he did a good job of stopping that before he backed into anybody. This is from on board the initial incident. Rear of the Ferrari just finding its way all the way where it doesn't need to be. Ooh, yeah, that hurt for him. That's dumped him to 25th position. Now, we've had another driver come in for a scheduled stop. Sean Romig is now into his stall. Swaby also has come into the pits since then.
Eisler's gone by Uribe. There's been a change for 3rd position. See if we can get a replay of it here. It happened this lap at some point, but Eisler has got the bronze step off a podium right now.
It started in the final corner. He managed to get inside. You could see he had to fight for it down into Andretti. And behind them, that is actually, that's Karen who made contact after it initially.
And if we go back live, it's just changed back. Eisler has had an off at the corkscrew, and he has lost not just 1, but 2 positions. Karen has gone by into 4th. So Eisler outbraked himself in the corkscrew, took a Zanardi line, but there's gravel there now. It slowed him down, and he's back in 5th.
All that hard work that just goes away in less than a lap. Karen, though, promoted to 4th at this point. This has been a smooth ride for the number 18.
And I want to correct something that said a moment ago. It looks like Diego lost the connection, so maybe he didn't hit the 20 incident limit cap.
Sad to see after his climb back forward that's the way it ended. Hopefully he can get that sorted out for next round so that he can really show what he's made of. Looking at 16th, Stacy Dungan has Leif Peterson close behind, but Peterson has pitted and Dungan has not. So Leif probably won't want to waste too much time trying to work his way past Stacy. Also got Jeff Corallo right behind that is 4th position. Jeff also has not pitted. So we watch from Corallo's perspective, looking up ahead at the Porsche, chasing the Ferrari. Ooh, and Dungan using a lot of track, ducking 2 wheels off into the dirt out of turn 4. Closing up under braking, Peterson. And the 913 looking like he might have something for the number 899. And just as we cut away, Dungan went off, and that position did go to Peterson. Meanwhile, on screen, This is for third position. That's Karen chasing Uribe.
Uribe has had all kinds of pressure from behind him, and not too far behind still is Isla. That trip through the gravel trap didn't cost him too much time. He's still in 5th place, safely ahead of Carlos Suarez Valenzuela. And, I'll give Carlo a bit of a shout out there, running in 6th place. I don't think we've mentioned him today, but having a quiet race so far.
I think we've only said his name once or twice the whole time, and it's not usually with the battle. As through turn 6, it looked like Karen couldn't quite hold on to the back of Uribe, so he's going to have to recover. Oh, and no, he's not, because here comes Uribe into the pits. So this opens up a bunch of track in front of Andrew Karen to try and put some hot laps in.
Uribe came in behind the lapped car of Olsen. He's really going to want to try and beat him out of the pits here, so he doesn't have to deal with him on pit exit.
Uribe finds his stall. This is the highest car to have pitted so far. The only one behind him, or the highest to have pitted behind him, is Sean Romig, but I don't think he's anywhere close enough to challenge him. Uribe still taking his service. It is a little long, just about 15 seconds, and he is, in fact, behind the lapped car of Olsen.
Yeah, Olsen took a much shorter stop, so like you said, did Uribe take a longer stop than he needed to?
This will make Pablo the highest pitter. He returns in 10th position. He was fighting with Andrew Karen, who is in 3rd. Now, does Andrew respond this lap, or does he keep going?
Well, there's no real pace advantage to drivers who pit earlier. It's not like they're putting on new tyres and they're going to put in a cracker, you know, that drivers still out on track have to worry about. However, into the pits comes Valenzuela, so let's see if he's able to make up any time.
A few more cars in the mid-pack also pit. Looks like John, well, no, John still hasn't taken his. Ambrose has not been in for a scheduled stop. Duhamel has pitted. Heb has pitted. Corralo has now come in. And we've got David Holland down to his stall. Valenzuela just behind him, now coming out.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if Valenzuela makes up any time on the Uribe.
Uribe's got pace. Ooh, this actually might be pretty tight. Valenzuela was much quicker in his stall, and he's actually going to be out ahead. Wow.
Wow, so is this... Well, we know it was a slow stop from Uribe because we saw him compared to Olsen as well. But how quick of a stop was that for Valenzuela? If he got by Uribe, can he take a fight to Karen and Isla? Well, here we go. Some more cars coming in.
Yep, that's our leader, Diaz, pitting, but Acosta is not. There we see the pit comparison between Uribe and Valenzuela. Wow. Nearly a 4-second difference. That was costly for Uribe. I'm curious why he took so much longer.
Now, I'm a little bit worried for Diaz. Has Acosta been he's doing another lap here. Has he been saving fuel behind Diaz? Has he not been showing his full potential?
Diaz is out, but Karen is also pitted. He was battling with Uribe. I would expect he's easily by unless he's got a slow stop. No, he does not. It's a 11-second stop for Andrew Karen. Valenzuela coming up behind him and Uribe, but Andrew looks well clear. You can see the gap between them is now those two behind. That is Valenzuela and Uribe around the hairpin behind him.
Before next stops begin, let's just go to 15th place. James Hobb, Jeff Carollo, and Sean Duhamel are having a great little scrap going on track. And James Hobb looks to have came out on top of it. But now let's cut away from that because Acosta isn't.
Okay, so Diaz in for 12.9 seconds. Not as slow as we saw from what Uribe did, but still pretty slow compared to the majority of cars. You talked about Acosta waiting behind him, potentially saving fuel. Let's see what the number 5 can do. Our current champion hits his pit box as he now takes his service, obviously not going up on the jacks. Diaz is just now coming around the final corner. Acosta done in 10 seconds, much quicker than Diaz. This is going to be a little bit tight.
That could be another benefit to saving fuel. Kicks out a bunch of cones for his teammate to have to deal with as well. Yeah. So, Acosta getting quite close to the gravel there, but he is miles ahead of Diaz. Now, of course, the big question is, does he have enough fuel to make it to the end?
I guess we'll find out in about 15 minutes' time.
Eisler coming out too.
Just about to say that he was the last of the top drivers to take his stop, and he will be out in fourth behind Karen. Andrew now onto the podium after qualifying in sixth. He was a name that we marked as someone to watch at the end of last season. And I'd say that he is fulfilling all the expectations that have been placed upon him in fine fashion.
So watching the live timing now on the left-hand side of the screen, Karen is 5 seconds ahead of Uribe in sixth. I think any one of those drivers in that battle could get that third step on the podium.
Something happening down in 13th. That's Montini just coming out, I think, after a scheduled stop. He just is out behind Fernando Borda, though, so that could be a battle for that 13th position, depending on if he's got the pace to chase him down. We still have 18 cars on the lead lap around this short lap, and there looks to be 28 cars still running.
Yeah, you know who that's not good news for, Joe? It's our race leader, Acosta, because all those great battles we've been seeing today have been taking place around 15th to 18th place, and Acosta's about to catch those battles and hope he doesn't lose too much time behind them.
Here we see our current champion working his way through turn 6. He's just a couple seconds behind Heb in that 18th spot. Wasn't Heb up at the front of that train just moments ago? I thought he was.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, must have had a mistake.
So now it's Duhamel who's up at the front. Dunigan behind him in 16th. Carollo 17th. Heb in 18th. And Heb has another off as he works his way through T10.
Yeah, this is all still close, this battle. Stacy Duden, and actually, I'll take that back. Sean DeHarmo is really at the front of his train in 15th, and then Stacy's about second behind him, and then Jeff Carrillo, and then James Hobbs. So 4 cars for Costa to deal with here. The battle's not really on right now. They're spread out a little bit, so maybe that'll be nice to him, but maybe they won't.
Costa's still gradually gaining on the tail of it. They actually might have a battle because Carollo's got to move on Dunigan. They come down into the 5th turn, and with the inside line, it looks a lot easier for Carollo. It's not done yet. Are they going to go side by side through 6? Thankfully, no, but Carollo has a horrible line into there, somehow manages to carry his speed through, and again follows in his tire tracks up and over the crest and can't respond into the corkscrew.
And Sean Duhamel is really able to put some distance on them while that's going on. James Hobb catches up a little bit, so now we've got a bit of a 3-way fight for 16th place.
Which is horrible news, as you mentioned, for Acosta, because now he is right behind as he closes up. If they start fighting into turn 1, he could lose the 2.5 that he has back to Diaz in a flash. Heb doesn't make the move down into the corner. He stays behind. How aware is he that number 5 is trying to lap him? They now work their way through turn 3.
I don't think he's aware. It's more just a question of does he care? This is a good place to let him by. Just pull over to the left here, or he's not going to do that. He takes a race in mind. Will he just let Acosta by in the braking zone? Yes, he will.
Gives him the space. Certainly isn't helping Abner. He's now 1.4 seconds ahead of Diaz. So Michael seems to be gaining ever so slightly.
Yeah, but Diaz is about to catch Heb a really bad part here. He's going to get held up behind him at the corkscrew, maybe. Yeah, that's going to cost him time.
Costa, those having to go the long way around on rainy curve. Ooh, 2 wheels in the dirt through there. Not an easy move. And now he's 4 wheels into the dirt out of turn 10. This has been proving difficult behind him. The same could be said of Diaz, who finally gets past Heb. Now he's going to try and get past Dune again. Looks like he's going to have a little bit of an easier time.
Dudenian has picked a bad place to let off here, though, because Heb is going to go right around the outside of him. They're 3 wide. They've almost outbraked themselves because they were all lapping Semkowicz.
Well, Heb manages to stay ahead of Dunigan out of that. And Diaz and Acosta are now by, but Diaz is now only a second behind the number 5, our leader.
And now Jeff Carello in front of him is on his own in 16th place quite comfortably, so he shouldn't put up too much of a fight here.
Gonna let one by. Oh, he's in a bad spot. He speeds up again. Ooh, wow, he handled that very well. Just managed to stay out of the way of Diaz, didn't lose a second, and continues on his chase of his teammate. Haven't checked in on Romig in a while. Fred is currently the driver who's behind him. They do have a lapped car back there. That's Olsen, so that he's not really involved in this fight. Just about half a second separating P8 and P9. One thing we haven't mentioned is let's stay on this battle. Or at least I don't think we mentioned it in a while. But Diaz and Acosta, 13 seconds ahead of Karen. We've lost Jean Carini as well. Trying to see if maybe he hit the incident limit. So we go to Ambrose now in a nice little battle. And I think, yes, Carini did hit the incident limit.
There's one thing iRacing doesn't tell you. It gives you a lot of information. It doesn't tell you how many incidents a driver has during a race. And I almost wonder if that's to stop someone from seeing, hey, the car in front of me, it has 16 incident points. Maybe if I just ram it up the back, it'll disappear.
Yeah, I have a feeling that's exactly the reason they decide not to make that viewable. Meanwhile, as we come back to Romig, who was in the dark Porsche, you see. Fredes in the Ferrari, the number 96 with the red on it. Still giving chase, but not able to close in on that half-second gap. Interestingly, we're down to 14 cars on the lead lap now that Acosta and Diaz have managed to overtake that big group of cars. Is losing out through the latter half of the lap. It's now increased up to 0.7 of a second. And really have to either hope for some help with traffic or start pushing a lot harder if he wants to overtake the 33.
Or win it on fuel.
That's true. I think by now, though, with 7 minutes left, they'd have a very good idea on whether or not they're close and need to save or if they are clean.
True. I think our race leader just overshot the corkscrew and somehow got away with it.
It looks like you're right, because it's half a second closer for Diaz now.
Yeah, it doesn't look like Diaz is going to make a move here. Let's see if we can get a replay of that. At the corkscrew, this lap, it looked like Acosta really overshot his marks.
See if we can find it. This could be race changing, this error. It looked like it had already closed up by a fair bit behind, for what it's worth. So I wonder if this isn't what initially cost him.
Yeah, going through turns 5 and 6. They did have a bit of lap traffic to deal with there. I wonder if that offset him a little bit. But yeah, you're right. They were close before here.
Yeah, but that was not the tidiest run through the corkscrew you've ever seen from Acosta.
Yeah, so he was already close, and then that mistake just kind of brought Diaz closer. So Diaz is in striking range. And you mentioned, Joe, that they have a good idea of how many laps there are left, and I think it's one of those times where I'm not sure I can agree with you there, because it looks like it might be right on the limit. I'm going to keep an eye on the race time each time they come across the grid and see how many laps we've got left.
Oh, and Federico Montini also seems to have ended his race prematurely. We'll check on that in a second as we watch them cross the line here. And Acosta's starting to weave to try and break the draft. We also lost John Ambrose. Checking to see if I can find what happened to them.
Joe, this race is actually it's to the safe side of what I thought it would be. It looks like we've got 4 laps left to go.
So it looks like Federico has run out of incident points. So that's what happened to him. I'm trying to find what happened to John. Didn't expect this many drivers to suffer from that.
Well, we've seen drivers, including our race leader there, Acosta, taking liberties with the runoff areas. Well, not runoff areas, but gravel. And this is starting to bite some of them in the closing moments of the race.
Well, I'm afraid Johnny Boy suffered the same fate. He has exited out after an off on the turn 6 and just racked up too many of them. So we ride on board with Diaz. Now, these two look like they are pushing hard, and he's gotten closer. You can visibly see it. Diaz within 0.3 of a second at certain points around this track. Does he go on the attack? He's very close coming up into the Andretti hairpin, tries to cover him off a little bit too late. Diaz finds the door open, squeezes through, looking for the over-under. Acosta can't quite get him back. Back to the lead for Diaz after pit stops, handed it over to his teammate.
Very nice move by Diaz and very good defensive driving by Acosta. He took it to the limit, knew he couldn't go beyond that limit without causing a crash for both of them. Obviously, you don't want to do that with your teammate. So yielded the position, tried to do some kind of crossover, it looked like, through the first turn. It didn't work out. It was a nice move by Diaz. Diaz has definitely been driving smoother through what we've been seeing the last few laps, but you have to wonder, was that because he was the one putting the pressure on and Acosta was the one feeling the pressure? Well, now the roles might be reversed. If that is the case, can Diaz hold on to Acosta for the remaining 2 laps when they get to the line? And you would think to say, yes, of course he can. He did it the whole first half of a race, but we have reason to believe that maybe Acosta wasn't showing his full potential throughout the first half of a race. But right now, though, Diaz hasn't been making any mistakes this lap since he's taken the lead, and it's looking good for the driver at number 30 as they cross the line. 2 laps left to go.
We're switching back to 5th place. Valenzuela is chasing Eisler now. The Iceman back to where he qualified in that 4th spot. He is about 3 seconds back from Karen. Not impossible for him to gain on the 18, but highly unlikely that he'll be able to get to the podium. Instead, I suspect he keeps glancing in those mirrors to try and hold Valenzuela back, who gains time, braking for the Andretti hairpin. Very much could change the complexion of the results if Carlo gets aggressive here at the end. Almost going to get the white flag soon for our top 2. This has been a great response from Michael Diaz, who unfortunately fell afoul of the steward's ire last season. And he's come back and has run a pretty phenomenal race. Had to fight his way up to the lead after he led most of the first part of this. And as the white flag flies, he now knows he only has to lead for 1 more. Abner Acosta still about half a second behind, and there is no car behind to make them worry. It is 15 and a half seconds down to Karen in third, so they are free to fight.
Yeah, Abner looked a little bit scruffier last lap, even though he's behind now. So I'm thinking Michael Bag, obviously, a simple mistake would cost him the lead and the win. But I think he's starting to feel a little bit more comfortable. Half a lap to go.
He's looking more comfortable. It's gone from 6/10 to 7/10 just since they crossed the start-finish line on this lap. They've lapped all but 13th place at this point. Quite a bit of the field now has been put down a lap. As Diaz comes up to the corkscrew, just a few more to go that he has to be clean. Acosta may have been pushing too hard because it is now up to 1.1 seconds back to the number 5. Around the penultimate turn and down to the hairpin. Just has to be smooth on the brakes, smooth to turn in, and easy on the throttle. The number 30 didn't get a win last season. He's going to get one this season for the very first time, trying Diaz, your victor here today.
Third, fourth, and fifth look like they'll stay in the positions that they started this lap, but Valenzuela giving it all he's got, running into the gravel, trying to get everything he can through turn 10, but it won't be enough. Karen is going to get third place, Isla is going to get fourth place, and Valenzuela is going to finish in fifth.
Our drivers seem to have been too far apart or lapped at this point, so they're all pretty distant from each other as the last of them stream across the line. Again, only 13 to come across on that lead lap. So we're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. But stick around because we'll have all the upcoming races on your screen for here on the GSRC.
40 of the best sim racers, $100,000 on the line. Who will rise to the challenge? This is the most competitive and sought-after season in iRacing World Championship history. This is where legends are made. This is the Porsche Esports Super Cup.
Welcome back to Laguna Seca, WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, where we just had round one of the PRL GTE Sports Cars Series. Michael Diaz responds to critics and manages to get his first win of the season at the very first round after going winless last season alongside his teammate who won the championship. And in fact, he had to beat that teammate to get that victory. Abner Acosta only 1 second behind at the line. Andrew Caron, who won his first race at the final round last season, comes across with another podium, and a third, Christian Eisler, takes fourth. Then you've got Carlos Suarez Valenzuela taking P5, and then David Holland in sixth. Pablo Uribe, he started on the podium and he wound up in seventh, not quite the direction he wanted to go. Sean Romig, the reverse, 13th on the grid, 8th at the end of the day. Ignacio Rodriguez Fredes will be P9 after it all is said and done, and Lee Peterson rounds out the top 10.
In 11th position was Horacio Calkin. Like a battle of hell, he came up to 11th ahead of Ted Lewandowski in 12th place. Last car on the lead lap was Fernando Borda, and then 14th place first car 1 lap down was Jeff Carrillo. Sean Duhamel comes home in 15th ahead of James Hebb, who had a couple of mistakes that stopped him from finishing higher. Stacey Dunnigan, sorry, we've been pronouncing his name wrong there. Stacey Dunnigan comes home in 17th place ahead of Jonathan Almanar in 18th. Jose Malbran finishes in 19th ahead of Donald Olson, rounding up the top 20.
21st goes to Lyndon Swaby with Kenneth Rodriguez in 22nd. Danny Duchesne, 23rd, first car 2 laps down. Spencer Semkovic is 24th. James LeBlanc with a 25th today, and Federico Montini in at 26. He was their first DNF. John Ambrose behind him, then is Jean-Francois Carini. Diego Ignacio Pertel Garrido, Diego as we like to call him, 29th. Joey Trungale, 30th. Steve Bammer in the 31st. These are all drivers that did not see the finish. Gary Schilling, 32nd. Jared Duploy on his lid at one point came back out, but decided to park at 33rd. Brett Thurman, 34th. Mark File, 35th, the last of the cars to start. Gibson and Luke did not start today, but we have our winner ready to talk to us. And Michael, after a winless season alongside a teammate who took the entire championship, this has got to feel like a huge relief. Tell us about how you're feeling right now.
First of all, hi guys. How's it going? It feels good, honestly, to finally get a win. Hopefully, I could get a lot more in the season.
And you had to fight your teammate for it. We didn't expect to see team orders. It certainly looked like you had to make some daring moves, especially to get the lead back. Tell us about that final pass.
Well, first of all, I overfueled my car because my software failed, so I had to ballpark it. But I think I saved a little bit more tires during the stint, and then that after I saw he came out in front, I just pushed as hard as I could, and thankfully, the back markers helped a little bit, and I was able to get close enough and make the pass.
It was impressive that you not only ran him back down, but eventually managed that overtake. So the question has to be asked, with your teammate having taken it last season, are you thinking about stealing his crown away this season potentially?
Well, last season, after we saw he had a better chance to win it, we just decided to help him go for it. This season, we'll see how it goes, so like maybe halfway, and then just decide from there. But I'm gonna give it my best to try and win it.
All right. Well, we look forward to it. You certainly are proving a tough cookie thus far. That is Michael Diaz, our winner here today in round one. I believe Sam has caught up with his teammate that he beat, Abner Acosta, our current champion, talking to Sam.
Yeah, Abner, decent first race. How badly did you want that win?
Just like any other race, I wanted it really bad, even though it was my teammate. But he did have a little bit more pace. I just got a little lucky that he put a little bit more gas than he should have and got ahead. But yeah, I wanted to win really bad.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that pit stop, so you answered that for me, that he took a bit of extra fuel. Pace-wise, though, I mean, Diaz, this is his first win. You won the championship last season. I'm sure you want to defend it. How much tougher do you think it's going to be? How much more of a threat do you think Diaz is going to be to you this season?
Diaz is really good. This year I decided to go with the Ferrari, and it's been. I think I'm slower with this one than with the BMW, but I wanted to learn a new car this season, so it might take me a few races to get a little accustomed to it. But yeah, it's gonna be tough. He's really fast.
Well, you only lost the race by about a second or two there, so if you think you can go faster, I'm sure Diaz and the rest of the field are going to keep that in mind and see what you can do throughout the rest of the season. But it's great to see you back at Abner, coming here to try and defend the Drivers' Championship as well as the Team Championship. With that regards, obviously, your team getting off to a great start today.
Thank you, guys. Thank you to GSRC for hosting and PRL.
All right, and that was our second place finisher. And Joe, you have caught up with David Holland.
Both David Holland and John Ambrose teammates. Holland, though, having a little bit better of a run than John did, but it wasn't perfectly clean, David. You wound up sixth today, and it looked like a couple mistakes out there may have cost you.
Oh yeah, we had a few mistakes. Man, that first one, I was just trying to settle in and get my run going, and going up to the corkscrew, I just lost all the weight on it, and it was definitely a pucker factor at 10, but we kept it in one piece, and then I was just trying to push as hard as I could to get back up there.
And then, of course, John seems to have had a few problems at the very start. Just an unfortunate race, considering both in the warm-up and the qualifying, John, you looked like you had a lot better pace. I guess, would you like to explain yourself or leave it a mystery for the audience why you started from the pits?
Well, that's what they'd like you to think, right? Yeah, no, I had I had problems right out of the gate. I was going to get out and change my number of cars viewed, and well, Joe, you can't do that anymore, and so I'm getting my sea legs back into this online racing aspect of it. But yeah, it was great starting from the pits and dead last, and luckily my teammate David, he brought it up at least closer to the front, and I brought it closer to the rear.
David, next race is going to be at Mid-Ohio, and that's going to be another technical course where sometimes it can be difficult to make overtakes. So are you and John both going to try and focus on getting a good qualifying again to set yourself up well there?
Yeah, I think that'll definitely be the goal. I personally haven't run that track in 8 years or so I'm going to need a bit of a refresher, but I'm definitely looking forward to it. It's a fun track.
One last one for John before we go. Are your days of giving setups to other drivers in the PRL over, except for David, I assume?
I'll leave that. I'm not answering that, Joe. I'm not answering that. Hey,
Smart
listen,
man.
real quick though. I want to thank you guys, the PRL, obviously, but more importantly, I want to thank Shell Oil USA out of Houston, Texas, for coming on board with us three this year. So looking forward to giving them a better show, hopefully at Mid-Ohio and not from the pit lane.
All right. Well, we look forward to that as well. That was John Ambrose, 27th, and David Holland, who was 6th out there today. And that's going to close us out as well. We also want to thank some sponsors. A big thank you goes out to Simulation Motorsports Affinity. Again, if you want to check out and see what they can do for you, look for them at SIMMSA.net. If you're a sim racer, I highly advise you go and see how you can get involved. Also to ButtKicker, they are located at thebutkicker.com. If you like making more immersion a part of your sim rig, please go and see what kind of gear you can get from them too. Also, a thank you goes to iRacing for putting us on IESN. Make sure and subscribe. That way you don't miss a moment here for the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. Just click that big red button and you'll get all of it in your feed. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts. They're listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. And thanks to the team today, Sam, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, check out our social media. Our Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook is Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram is GSRC_Graham. As we mentioned, the next round, Mid-Ohio, will take place Tuesday, September 24th, a week from now, and that'll again be at 9 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.